Maybe I'm not a sheep. Maybe I'm not mature. Maybe my relationship with the Lord is broken, and it could lead to exasperation, which is the opposite of what we should be experiencing as believers.
The reason I ended up attending Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, not the reason I went to seminary itself, but the reason I chose Southwestern in particular, is because I had a choice between Southwestern in Fort Worth, Texas, or New Orleans, down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Lived in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and I couldn't decide which one of those I wanted to go to. New Orleans was a bit closer, but I was driving in my van one day, and a song came on the radio, and one of the lines in the song was "Go West, Young Man."
That Michael W. Smith?
I think it was, actually, now that you mentioned that. Yeah, it was, actually.
Yeah.
"Go West, Young Man." And it was right at the time I was trying to decide, do I go to Southwestern, do I go to New Orleans? Go West, Young Man. And, Fort Worth, Texas is west of Vicksburg, Mississippi, so I went. That's literally why I ended up going to Southwestern instead of New Orleans. So, I mean... But I'm
Lord
feeling
used
much
that.
better now.
Yeah. The Lord used that decision in His providence, even though it was misguided and based upon something that He is. And this is the point: God has not promised to lead us in that way. There's no promise in Scripture that is how God leads us, through a song on the radio, or the shape of a cloud in the sky, or a random thought, or a nudging, or an impression. There's nothing in Scripture that promises that that's how God leads us to make life-altering decisions like that. I mean, just be glad you weren't listening to Toto's Africa. You might have gone to a South African seminary or something.
I'd be in Zimbabwe right now. Exactly. And, what is the hermeneutical grid for interpreting shapes and clouds or random song on the radio? Or, as Bill Hybels said, Bill Hybels, former pastor of Willow Creek Church, he was out fishing on his boat one day, and a Bud Light beer can floated by his boat, and he thought maybe that was a message from God. I mean, how do we interpret, these?
What's the exegetical grid?
Right.
See, in going into that, you have to assume that, number one, that the sign comes from God. Number two, that God intends for me to exegete that sign and try and find some meaning in it. And then third, you have to assume that whatever meaning you're able to draw out of a floating beer can, that it is somehow divinely authoritative enough to guide you in decision making, or to feed your heart or sanctify you in some way.
Yeah.
And those are all decisions that are without any warrant in Scripture at all.
So if you're making the argument, and I know that you do because I've read the book, but if you're making the argument, by the way, I wish you could have gotten somebody a little bit better to write the foreword to it. The foreword is written by John MacArthur, Dr. John MacArthur. So well, R.C. Sproul had already died. J.I. Packer had just passed away, and I thought, who else am I going to get to write? I guess I'll ask John to write. Yeah, and reluctantly you did.
Yeah, reluctantly.
But no, I mean, in all seriousness, John MacArthur doesn't hand out forewords to books like candy. If he's willing to put his name on it, that says a lot for the book. And dear friends, I want to heartily commend this book to you. It is absolutely excellent. It's diametrically opposed to the prevailing winds in the evangelical church, but I really believe that if you'll read this book, it will be a tremendous help to you, a tremendous encouragement to you, and it will allay all of those doubts and fears that you have had. Well, I just don't hear God speak to me like He seems to be speaking to everyone else. This will be a tremendous help to you.
Oh, thank you. That's appreciated.
Yeah, and I mean it. But that does raise up a question. If God only speaks to us in His Word, then how do I make decisions? How do I know which job to take? Because the Bible doesn't tell me if I'm supposed to be a plumber or a dentist or an accountant. The Bible doesn't tell me which house to buy. Doesn't tell me who to marry, other than it tells me to marry a believer. But other than that, it doesn't tell me to marry, Susie Q over, Betty Lou or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you make big life-altering decisions if God has only spoken and is only speaking through His Word?
Well, this is going to sound contrary to what most evangelicals teach in most evangelical circles, and it is contrary to that, but it is biblical. And the gist of it is this: we make our decisions, big ones and small ones, basically the same way. We make the big decisions and the small decisions the same way. We use two parameters. Is one of my choices within the moral will of God and what God has revealed in wisdom? And if we can eliminate any difficulties or issues with either choice within the revealed moral will of God, that is what Scripture says concerning God's morally revealed will, that we be pure, that we not lie, that we not be worldly, etc. Those things which Scripture has clearly revealed, if our choice does not rest outside of that, and our choice does not contradict sound godly wisdom also revealed in Scripture. So I'm looking for moral issues and wisdom issues in Scripture. And if either of my choices do not violate either one of those two parameters, then, this is going to sound wacky, we are free to make either choice with God's blessing. And we should choose to do what we want to do in that situation and do it with God's blessing. So if we're talking about making a choice with a job career, I had a choice that I could go back to Bible college or not go to Bible college. If I didn't go back to Bible college after 1 year, then I was going to come back here. I was going to pursue a course to become a certified public accountant. I was going to go to a secular university, get a secular job, and go on with my life. That was my other option. The other option my first option was to stay at Bible college and continue out my course of studies there. I didn't know I was going to become a pastor. I never expected to ever become a pastor or to ever preach or teach Scripture or to ever write books or anything. That's not why I wanted to go. I wanted to go because I loved Scripture and I wanted to learn more. So I had a desire to learn and to know God and to know God's Word.